Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening. It's Monday, August 1st. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi, and we begin tonight with some breaking news. Al-Qaeda leader Ayman al-Zawahiri has been killed in a CIA drone strike in Afghanistan. In an address to the nation just moments ago, President Joe Biden confirmed he ordered the airstrike on Saturday, saying, quote, "Justice has been delivered and this terrorist leader is no more." Al-Zawahiri had been Osama bin Laden's partner in planning the 9/11 attacks. Roughly 9 months after a girl reported being raped by members of the San Diego State football team, the school today announced it is now moving forward with its own investigation. KPBS reporter Alexander Nguyen spoke to the victim's attorney.
They are completely ignoring their responsibility to investigate this case.
Attorney Dan Gillian didn't mince words when San Diego State announced today that the university has begun its own investigation into the report of a rape allegedly committed by 5 members of the school's football team. He says SDSU is skirting its duty to protect students.
That's what's so troubling. They know they breached their responsibility because they know that their entire purpose of investigating this is to prevent future assaults on young women there.
SDSU says the San Diego Police Department asked the school not to conduct its own investigation because it might interfere with the criminal investigation. In an email to campus, SDSU President Adela De La Torre says the university is doing everything it can to support SDPD in its investigation, which, quote, "we believe is the best way to hold those responsible criminally liable." Gillian says that's all bunk.
What the police are doing is they are trying to prove what happened so they can prove a crime that was committed in the past. Those are entirely separate purposes.
The suspected rape happened at a Halloween party at this off-campus house in October last year. The victim was 17 years old at the time. She says when she arrived, she was given something to drink and was led into a room where several men raped her, leaving her bloody and bruised. Her attorney shared these photos showing bruises on her neck and leg. Gillian says the now 18-year-old victim plans to sue SDSU. SDPD says the investigation is ongoing. So far, no one has been charged. Alexander Nguyen, KPBS News.
Mayors from across San Diego County gathered at the San Diego Rescue Mission to discuss how to better tackle homelessness. KPBS reporter Kitty Alvarado has the story.
For 2 hours, 12 mayors from San Diego County met behind closed doors with leaders from the Rescue Mission and the Lucky Duck Foundation.
We surveyed all the mayors before they came down here, and one of the themes was they really don't know what the Rescue Mission does. And conversely, I really don't know all the services that they do.
Donnie D., the president of the San Diego Rescue Mission, says if they're going to tackle an issue as complex as homelessness, this simple first step is critical.
If we can build a partnership, public and private, I really believe that is a much better approach to helping the person that's living on the streets who really needs us to get our act together.
I think a lot of us are frustrated that we're spending more than we ever have on this problem, but it's not getting better, it's actually getting worse.
San Diego Mayor Todd Gloria says this is an opportunity to come together as a region and fight for resources together because every city is looking for solutions to the same problem.
A regional effort can often mean that we're more effective. There's not enough money to fund every city in the state, but if we can go as a region to Sacramento and say that we are supporting Vista's proposal for a new family affordable housing complex, and I suspect they'll be more successful in their effort.
Mayor Alejandra Sotelo Solis of National City says this must be an ongoing conversation.
This is not a meeting to solve homelessness. This is not the meeting to do that. This is a meeting to discuss what resources are out there, how we can work together, and how we can continue to address homelessness and continue the dialogue.
That dialogue will continue when city managers gather at the rescue mission in January. Kitty Alvarado, KPBS News.
Today marks the start of high school football season at many campuses across the county. Players are reporting for training camp for a few weeks before fall semester classes begin. But what will young athletes face this season as the COVID pandemic continues, along with staffing shortages and many other challenges? KPBS education reporter MG Perez joins us now live from Balboa Stadium at San Diego High School, where players are reporting for the first practice. MG.
Maya, are you ready for some football? These members of the San Diego High School Cavers football team certainly are. Right now they have just started some drills and they are getting accustomed to being back on the football field here at Balboa Stadium for the first time in a long time. Now, what you will not see are any of these players wearing masks. San Diego Unified currently only has an indoor mask mandate that was started with summer school, and if these players move inside to a weight room, they would then have to put a mask on because that is what the rule is and the requirement for the moment. As we know, in 2020, almost the entire season was canceled. Last year, it was abbreviated. This year, it's going to be a season, a whole season, they hope, and the team and their new coach are up and ready for the challenge.
For more kids to get involved. We know when it's a little bit more about it, so we know how to be a little safer. But there's always things that will prevent people from coming out. And it's not, I can't just, say it's one thing or another, but San Diego Unified is going to do what they can to keep us safe.
Everything's been actually fun. Make sure everybody's participating and stuff, which I think is a very enjoyable years. Actually, at San Diego High School, I like it this way.
You can expect a good winning record this season for sure. Maybe playoffs or more than that, you never know.
Maybe?
Yes. Nah, for sure, for sure.
Right on. Thank you, Casey.
Thank you.
What we know for sure right now is that these players are determined to have a successful season. They're doing drills right now, and we know that they will work hard and try to bring home a championship is what we're told, Maya.
Well, MG, that we know that San Diego Unified and other districts continue to have a teacher shortage. Can you tell us about the staffing on the football field?
Yes, they have a new head coach here and a new coaching team, but what they are short on are officials to actually officiate the games. There will be about 38 games every weekend, and they've only got, they're short by about 10 or 8 officials, so they're working on getting more volunteers and paid staff in order to help officiate these games. What that means is that Friday night lights may be Thursday night lights or Saturday night lights if they can't officiate all the games on a Friday night.
And when are the first football games being played, and are there any limitations?
So San Diego Unified will have their first round of games on September 30th, but there are other school districts around the county that will start playing as early as August 19th. So there is football to look forward to. And at this moment, there are no limitations. The stadiums will be filled to whatever capacity they have. Of course, that could change depending on cases of COVID and what the county decides to enforce.
Well, thanks for that report, MG, and we wish them the best of luck. Thank you. It's back to work for state lawmakers reconvening in Sacramento after a month-long summer recess. There are a number of high-profile bills that they'll need to vote on before August 31st deadline, including some created response to recent Supreme Court rulings. And among them, more than a dozen bills increasing access and strengthening protections for the right to abortion and contraception. Democratic lawmakers also introduced a bill to comply with the Supreme Court's ruling expanding gun rights while making California's concealed carry law more restrictive. Members of San Diego's congressional delegation checked in with local business leaders downtown today. KPBS reporter Melissa May has more on this annual event.
Every year, the San Diego Regional Chamber of Commerce hosts members of the region's congressional delegation. Jerry Sanders is the chamber's president and CEO.
It's important because federal policy really affects San Diego. It affects us at the border, affects tourism, the airport, affects the money that we get.
Today's goal was to discuss the critical issues facing Congress and the policy and legislation that directly impacts the San Diego community. Several representatives addressed the border, including Congressman Juan Vargas of the 51st District.
The problem that we have at the border right now is really how long it takes to move goods, services, and people across the border. Now, we have, in fact, spent a lot of money making the border more efficient. The problem is that we don't have enough staff, and we're trying to get more staff to make things move more quickly and expeditiously.
Obviously, it's something that really impacts our economy, our community here in San Diego.
In San Diego, we see the border not as a threat, but as an opportunity. It generates a lot of jobs and commerce. It's part of our culture as well as part of our economy.
Veterans were another major concern. Thousands live here in San Diego, and many are waiting for the passage of the PACT Act, a bill to expand medical care for vets exposed to toxic chemicals.
America has to keep its promise to its veterans. These people have sacrificed more than they bargained for, and we need to support them through the passage of this bill.
Congresswoman Sarah Jacobs addressed the lack of access to high-quality, affordable child care.
Even before the pandemic, we had 60% of families in San Diego County who couldn't find childcare that met their needs, and we know that it's only gotten worse since more than 500 childcare centers have closed since the pandemic.
Election politics did come up, and Republican Congressman Darrell Issa predicted the House would flip back to his party's control.
Assuming that for a moment, even if it's by a small amount, it means we'll be back to divided government, back to what I think the American people are pretty comfortable with. No one party running things, but rather genuine compromise being necessary in order to do everything.
While the luncheon was a chance for the representatives to tell business leaders what they've accomplished, Sanders says he hopes they'll also take what they've learned back to Washington.
What we hope is that the representatives leave here knowing exactly what the business community in San Diego thinks and what we value.
Melissa May, KPBS News.
California is temporarily blocking new oil and gas drilling on federal land in the Central Valley. The state attorney general announced the deal with the U.S. Bureau of Land Management today. The government has agreed to stop the sale of oil and gas leases on about 2,500 square miles of land while it reviews the environmental effects of fracking. Governor Newsom wants to ban fracking in the state by the year 2024. The compromise climate legislation working its way through Congress is getting mixed reviews from local experts following the nation's response to the climate crisis. KPBS environment reporter Eric Anderson has the details.
Sierra Club President Ramon Cruz last week called the surprise compromise between Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer and West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin a big effing deal. The bill calls for $369 billion in funding for environmental justice, making clean energy products, and cutting the nation's carbon emissions by 40%.
It's not where we need to be, but it's much further along than we have been.
San Diego 350's Masada Dizenhouse says it's important to codify carbon emission goals, but the legislative package remains a mixed bag.
It's very far from perfect. You know, it has some really insidious parts like subsidies for expanding extraction of oil and gas and for the false climate solutions being pushed by the fossil fuel industry. But it also has hundreds of billions of dollars to incentivize renewable energy, energy efficiency, and investing in environmental justice communities.
Energy industry analyst David Victor says the legislation is significant because it's a deal that could make it to President Biden's desk. The UC San Diego professor says the agreement comes during a difficult political environment.
We've waited for decades now to get serious about the climate problem, and we can't do a huge amount very quickly, especially in the context of the energy crisis that we're in, where there's a huge amount of political pressure to increase conventional fossil fuel production.
Victor cautions that the goal to reduce carbon emissions by 40% is somewhat aspirational.
These numbers are always a little bit squishy because figuring out the actual reduction in emissions requires knowing how these policies will be implemented. We don't know that yet.
Democrats hope for a Senate vote before the end of the month. The House would also need to approve the bill before it's sent to Biden. Eric Anderson, KPBS News.
We're dealing with the effects of climate change right now with flooding and wildfires. In Northern California, McKinney Fire has taken a deadly turn. Today, 2 bodies were found inside a burned-out car. The fire near the Oregon border has exploded to over 55,000 acres, making it California's largest wildfire of the year. Nearly 5,000 homes and other buildings are threatened, while an unknown number have already burned. One small town was all but wiped out.
Have a little township of 105 people, and you burn the 10 miles of the river township to the ground. And that's where we're at now. I believe in the community, and it'll take some time, but we'll work it out and we'll get back on our feet again.
On Saturday, Governor Gavin Newsom declared a state of emergency, allowing him more flexibility to make emergency response and recovery effort decisions and to tap federal aid. Flash flooding brought mud and debris onto roads, forcing closures in and out of Death Valley National Park. About 100 miles south, drivers were also urged to avoid the Mojave National Preserve, where flooding caused several roads to buckle. No injuries were reported. Thunderstorms were possible again today before conditions clear up.
Looking ahead to the next couple of days here across Southern California, that monsoon moisture is going to be exiting, moving a little bit further north, but we're generally going to be staying warm and dry. We are going to be watching for that area of high pressure to shift back, and that could bring the chance for some moisture next weekend, but between now and then, it's likely going to be mainly dry for us. Tonight in the metro, temperatures dropping back to about 70 degrees for an overnight low. Elsewhere, we're looking at mid-60s from Escondido towards Ramona, low 70s in El Cajon, 80s out towards some of the deserts here. And then your Tuesday looking like a generally dry day across Southern California, pleasant along the coast, but we'll have to watch for some rough seas out there because of Tropical Storm Frank pushing northward. You'll notice some isolated storms again further north, not really affecting us across Southern California. Temps right around 80 degrees for you in Oceanside. Upper 70s in San Diego. We're looking at triple digits out towards Borrego Springs, and mid 70s generally for us in the mountains. And then Wednesday, a rinse and repeat kind of day. Some spotty storms possible in the Sierra Nevada, but overall Southern California staying warm and dry with typical August-like heat. So temps for us near the coast, we're looking at upper 70s to about 80 degrees. Pretty seasonable, maybe a degree or two above average, but nothing major here. And you'll notice Saturday a straight thunder shower possible for us as we head towards next weekend. Further inland, no rain in the forecast here. Temperatures are sitting in the mid 80s, a mix of sunshine and clouds. A little bit of a drop from the upper 80s back into the mid 80s Tuesday into Wednesday. In the mountains, mid 70s all across the board here. Looking at that chance for a stray storm or two as we head towards next weekend. And in the deserts, not a whole lot of change here. Triple digits all across the board with temperatures changing just a couple degrees day in, day out. And then next weekend, again, have that chance for a stray shower or two. For KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Jessica Pash.
I'm Judy Woodruff. Tonight on the NewsHour, extreme weather in California and Kentucky forced thousands from their homes. Coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
It's been more than a year and a half since the Food and Drug Administration first authorized at-home COVID tests. And since then, many of those tests have expired, at least according to the dates that are printed on the boxes. But as our partners iNews Source reported today, just because the test says it's expired doesn't mean it's time to throw it out. Over time, moisture, air, and heat could all make a home antigen test less reliable, but some test makers have shown that they can outlast their printed use-by date by several months. For more information on what to do with your COVID tests, you can head to inewssource.org. San Diego County is taking a new step to try to stop opioid overdoses with vending machines. The vending machines will dispense naloxone, which is also known as Narcan. It's a drug that can reverse overdoses. The county plans to put them in a dozen locations by next year. Dr. Nicole Esposito is a health officer with the County of San Diego's Behavioral Health Department, and she explains how the vending machines will work.
What somebody has to do is they have to go to the vending machine. There's a link
to have the training. It's a very simple training because the naloxone just is a spray up the nose. You want to know how to recognize an opioid overdose? It tells you how to do that, and it gives you very simple instructions about how to administer it. If you see somebody experiencing those symptoms, then you get a pin, you enter it into the machine, and then the kit, the naloxone box, comes out so that you can carry the actual naloxone in your pocket.
Esposito expects 6 of the 12 vending machines to be installed by the end of this year. Officials have not decided where all of the machines will go, but the first will be placed at the McAllister South Bay Recovery Center in Chula Vista. Growing up in poverty, surrounded by guns, drugs, and gang members is a reality for many in San Diego. KPBS reporter Jacob Ayer shows us an innovative approach to change lives and address trauma for at-risk boys and young adults in those scenarios.
I do it at least like once a week.
Maclovio Marquez is a personal trainer and coach in downtown San Diego. But just a couple of years ago, he was dealing drugs.
To be a gang member or to be tough or to have this persona of I'm a badass is so widely accepted, and not only widely accepted, it's strongly enforced and encouraged like when it doesn't need to be.
Donovan Dove says he ran into similar scenarios.
We don't have counselors, we counsel ourselves. We drink, we smoke, they put liquor stores everywhere. We out here faded, we are lost, you know what I'm saying? So when we are lost, no guidance, police circling around our neighborhood all day, it's cops and robbers. So it put us in a criminal mindset already.
Marquez and Dove both say an organization called Paving Great Futures helped them turn their lives around. And now, they're mentors for other youth. Armand King co-founded the group, which educates kids and young adults on harsh realities many of them face, from drug abuse and child sex trafficking to homelessness and youth violence. King says the program gives them hope.
It gives them ideas that and thoughts and belief that they can do more than what their circumstances that they grew up in might dictate to them.
Now, King is building on the lessons he learned through Paving Great Futures and as the chair of San Diego Gang Prevention and Intervention Board. His next chapter is a separate for-profit youth mentoring curriculum called Walk With Me Impact.
The only solution that we end up hearing is prison. The only things that we see as a result to the lifestyle is death and incarceration. So this curriculum, we are fully focusing on prevention tactics, prevention methods. How do we stop a kid from ever having to go through these traumatic experiences?
King says Walk With Me Impact is for-profit, so he can pay youth consultants like Kamaraki, who says kids can be attracted to illegal and dangerous work.
You know, pimps always have money, fly clothes, got girls, you know, giving out dollars to the young, to us, you know, and looking out for us and taking care of us. A lot of us don't have fathers, you know, older brothers or anyone that's looking out for us like that.
The program will provide youth with positive role models who look like them and are from similar backgrounds like Marquez.
I know when I was younger and while I was in that lifestyle, and I didn't want to talk to no adults about what I was doing, you know, but if I knew you could relate to me and you know what I'm going through, I'll be more willing to not only vent to you, but to engage with you and keep a relationship with you, you know?
The new curriculum includes rap music, a video documentary series, and a choose-your-own-adventure book where readers can make choices based on real-life experiences.
The material in this curriculum will help kids not only recognize what they're surrounded by, recognize these toxic lifestyles, but it'll help them cope with things that they're already dealing with, prepare them for things that may be approaching them.
King says there's a dire need for this new curriculum, as he's lost too many loved ones over the past couple of years.
And after death, after death, after death, it's like being at war in Afghanistan, and it seems like nobody cares, and wonder why you can't behave well at school, wondering why you're not participating in society.
King says the Walk With Me Impact curriculum is being reviewed by 2 professors at Point Loma Nazarene and San Diego State University. A Kickstarter campaign to raise funds for the initiative starts on August 2nd. Eventually, he hopes to expand the program into schools, juvenile halls, and other settings across the U.S. and Canada. Jacob Ayer, KPBS News.
Back to school shopping is happening amid historic inflation and recession fears. According to the National Retail Federation, spending is expected to match last year's record high of $37 billion. Jen Sullivan has some money-saving tips.
Scissors you have and glue.
The back-to-school shopping season is underway, and parents are facing higher prices for just about everything on their list amid looming recession fears and inflation reaching a 41-year high.
That's food prices, that's rent, and that's back-to-school supplies. So everything's up a lot, and it's really biting into the purchasing power of the typical family.
Meanwhile, a new National Retail Federation survey found 1/3 of consumers say they're spending less in other areas so they can pay for items their children need for school. Financial expert Julie Alma-Taveras says it's good that parents are prioritizing items for school and has these 3 tips to save money. The first step is to make a budget and stick with it. Next, take it slow. Some parents make the mistake of buying too much before school starts, only to find out that their children don't actually need it.
Don't worry about having a back-to-school haul. Don't worry about spending hundreds of dollars on clothes and hundreds of dollars of school supplies. Have a good understanding of what the needs are going to be for that semester or for that year, and take it slowly.
Also, involve the kids. Taveras recommends giving them a set amount and letting them shop with you. That way, it's a money lesson for them, too, forcing them to prioritize what they really need.
Don't go too crazy with the stickers and the binders and all of those extra things, because a really important part of financial power and also teaching generational wealth is having these conversations.
For today's Consumer Watch, I'm Jen Sullivan.
All-star pitcher Joe Musgrove is staying with his hometown team. The Padres announced today that they've signed Musgrove to a 5-year contract. The deal will keep the 29-year-old El Cajon native and Grossmont High School graduate in San Diego through the 2027 season. Musgrove started his major league career with the Houston Astros, winning a World Series ring in 2017. And last year, he threw the Padres' first ever no-hitter against the Texas Rangers. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Good night.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.